Mom mostly went by the name of Nan in her adult life. Nan for short. And the house you grew up in, what did your bedroom look like? Do you remember?
The one on New Haven, you mean?
You can talk about the one on, if you remember, on Waverly. Do you remember living in that house?
No.
You don't?
About New Haven.
Okay, tell us about on New Haven, the two-story house.
Well, we had an upstairs. We slept upstairs, and they had one large bed and a small bed for me. Mom and Dad had the big bed. It was a double bed. And my dad would take me up there every Sunday morning and read the funnies to me. Every Sunday morning. And I guess if he didn't, I'd raise Cain till he did.
And what was your favorite? What was his favorite he'd read to you?
Cats and Jammer Kids, of course.
Cats and Jammer. And your grandparents lived next door to you in the two-story house, and their house was similar, right?
A little more old-fashioned than that one. My dad, he got fancy when he was building it, and he added a few things to the plans. And the stairs were always a worry to the folks. They didn't want us climbing the stairs without them being around. They was afraid we'd fall off. And I think Junior did when he wasn't much more than a baby. He climbed up on all fours, and I think he fell, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that why the next house that he built on Stockton was just one story? Did y'all own a car before you moved out to John Rhodes Boulevard?
Oh, yes.
You had cars then?
Yes. We had some kind of a Buick, I think. And I remember Dad lighting the tail light.
With the gas or whatever?
You had to get out and open it up and strike a match to it. And he would let me blow it out when he was through driving it.
Well, for one thing, her parents believed that they should pick their own church when they become adults. So they really didn't go to church a whole lot, I don't think. Her mother did, and her dad didn't. If it wasn't Southern Baptist, he didn't go to church.
He probably went to sing in the choir. He loved that.
He played the harmonica, her dad,
yeah,
and the accordion, and guitar. He played the guitar too?
He played it a little bit, but not much.
What did your father do for work? He did a lot of like road construction, right?
Yes.
He brought in the fill dirt to some of the creeks, like Turkey Creek, Crane Creek.
Crane Creek. He worked in the sawmills in South Melbourne.
Yeah, Hopkins sawmill, yeah. And when Mom's parents got married, they lived in a houseboat there in Crane Creek, and he would swim the creek to go to work at the sawmill in Hopkins. There's a house right across, it'd be east of St. Joseph Church. He built that house too, and that's similar to the one downtown Melbourne, the two-story. It's a lot like it inside too.
There was a house that Janet Gaynor's aunt lived in.
Where was it at?
He built that. It was just east of the bank. She was a movie star. And when I was real small, she used to walk all the way out to where we lived just to play with me.
You want to talk about your siblings? You were the oldest.
Yeah, and then Anna, and then the twins. Mom had twins, a boy and a girl.
Who was born after the twins?
That would be Eunice, wouldn't it? I think.
How about John? When was John born?
He was the last
Oh,
one.
okay.
Go to school, where it is now. I walked out to it.
What's the name of it?
Well, it was just named Melbourne School.
And now what's it named? What'd they name it now?
You know it better than I do.
Ruth Henniger.
Yeah, that was before her time. So.
But she was your teacher, right?
She was when I was in high school, and I had her, I think, in the 11th grade. And then the next year she didn't teach. She was probably learning to be a principal. And then the next year I had her off and on. She kind of filled in for the teachers that were sick or out for some reason. I liked her. We got along real good.
Who was your best friend in school?
My best friend, Martha Van Lingham, really was my best friend. And then she got sick, and there was a girl came down from Georgia, and she sort of made up with me, Evelyn Eford.
And after you graduated and your siblings were in school and you didn't have nothing to do, what'd you do that day?
I made guava jelly. I went out and picked a 5-gallon jug full of guavas and took them to the house and made jelly out of them.
How did you meet Dan?
He had his sisters to contact me, and they made arrangements for us to go on a date. Well, I'd never dated before, and I didn't really know him, so we ended up, he came out home and visited with the whole family, and we kind of got acquainted, and then every Friday, I think it was, he would take me out. Usually we'd end up at the beach, just sit there and listen to the waves coming in. Oh, that was the most beautiful sight when the waves would come in. All that phosphorus would light up. It was just beautiful.
Didn't Loretta Kitchenberg introduce you and Dan?
Yeah. We met them in town one Saturday. The folks always did their shopping Saturday evenings, and we met them. They were on a date, and she had to get something at the dime store, and we were parked in front of the dime store getting ready to go home, and they come along and she stopped and introduced him to it.
How did Dad propose to you?
Gosh, I don't remember. He probably said, let's get married.
You got married at home instead of in the church.
Well, I wasn't Catholic, so I couldn't get married in the church. And my second choice would be home.
Plus your grandmother.
Yes, my grandmother wouldn't have anything to do with another church. She was Baptist and strictly Baptist. She wouldn't touch another church.
Where did you get your wedding dress that you got married in?
I made it.
You made it?
Well, I sent to, I don't know if it was Sears or Montgomery Ward now, but for one, but I had to remake it to suit me.
Was it already a long dress?
Mm-hmm. Too long.
It was too long? You shortened it?
I was always short.
So did y'all go on a honeymoon then, or did you wait to go on a honeymoon?
We went the next day. We went to St. Petersburg. He had a couple of friends over there. They were friends of the family, or his family. I had met him, and the man he was a comic. Everything he said, you had to laugh at. He was so funny. And they lived in a house that was right on the river in Malabar.
Oh.
And Dad took me to meet him and get acquainted with him. My mom hadn't seen him while we were living in McNulty's house. And then when we moved in the house on Connect Road, my dad had to go to Fort Pierce. So Mom had been trying to figure out how she could get down to see the baby. And she asked if she could go that far with him when he went to Fort Pierce. So he took her to the house and dumped her out. And I was in the back doing the breakfast dishes. And she walked in the front part, and she had to look through the window to see Bill. He was asleep in his crib. And she come trotting in the kitchen where I was, and she said, "He's such a pretty baby." She fell in love with him right away. She couldn't wait for him to wake up so she could hold him. Let's see, what did I do? Probably went to that job where you made the dye.
Right, you printed fabric for draperies.
Yeah.
And where was that at?
It was in the arcade building.
Downtown Melbourne?
Yeah, the second building from the east. Three flights up, and we had to we rolled the material up after we printed it and carried it across the street, down the stairs, 3 floors, and across the street. process the dye. And then we'd have to go back and pick it up and carry it up the stairs. Gosh, that was kind of hard work for a little person like I was.
You and Dolly Dick set up your own sewing shop?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was across from the railroad station, across the street.
On the east side of the railroad tracks downtown Melbourne.
Dad got mad because I wasn't making a lot of money. He said something that made Dolly mad. She grabbed her machine and went home.
Left Mom with all the customers to take care of, clothes to make.
I didn't want to keep working by myself, and so I closed up the shop, finished the work that we was working on at the time, and closed it up. Dolly got well, her husband was working there in a clerk's office or something, and he needed a secretary, so he put her to work, and she got me on, and I stayed there for how long? 40 years.
No, you wasn't there that long. I think you started in 1963, I'm thinking, and then you retired in 1976, December, I think. What were some of your hobbies?
Well, I liked sewing. That's why the sewing job was easy for me to do. I liked sewing. I was sewing clothes for you kids, making them.
Do you remember what you made our clothes out of?
Feed sacks.
They had some pretty prints for the feed sacks. They were pretty.
When you washed them, the color all faded and mingled together, and they come out, all kinds of colors came out of the wash.
Do you remember what you used to wash the clothes in?
Tubs.
Well, I know you had a big old cast iron kettle out in the backyard, and you built a fire under it.
Yeah.
And
like sheets and pillowcases, white things. I would boil them to make sure they were clean, not full of germs. Yeah.
you'd stir them around in a stick
Yeah.
in that hot water. It's been the happiest time of your life.
The happiest? Well, Bill's birth kind of stands out. He was such a nice baby. he was too nice to be a boy. And he was a good kid. Didn't give me near as much trouble as Nancy did.
I was your best child. But one time, remember when you had to go get your neighbors and everybody else?
What happened?
When Bill walked away and you couldn't find him?
I kind of forgot about that. That was scary. I didn't know what became of him.
We lived out in the country, nothing around.
And I walked to Connect's. That's when they found him out in the woods. Yeah. I walked to the Connect's. Mrs. Connect was the only one home. And she got in her car and she went around to every neighbor and got people to come and help hunt for him. And he just was not to be found.
Do you remember how old he was?
He was...
he was probably about 4, right?
I don't think he was that old. John wasn't a year old.
I think you were pregnant with Val, though, weren't you?
Yeah, I must have been. I think. Let's see.
Seems like you were. So Mrs. Connect got all kinds of friends to look for Bill?
And she went around to all the neighbors, and they came running, and she thought my dad was working for somebody out on
Minton Road?
Yeah, Minton Road.
Now, whereabouts was this at, this house?
It was our farmhouse on Babcock Street, just south of Palm Bay Road, on the west side of the road.
So Miss Connect, does she live close by?
Well, on Connect Road.
The house on Palm Bay Road, was that her?
Do you remember which house it was? Was it actually on Connect Road where Mrs. Connect lived, or was it the one on Palm Bay Road?
It was on Palm Bay Road.
Oh, okay. And
so I was about to have another baby, and I think I had a bad cold. I didn't feel good, and I didn't have a car, so I had
no
to
phone.
walk all the way down to Connect's house, and I get her to help me hunt for her.
Wow.
And who found him?
Junior.
Your brother.
Yeah. And he found him leaning up against the ditch bank, canal bank. If he'd have gone over, he would have gone down in the canal. But he was too tired to climb over that pile of dirt, so he sat down and leaned against it and went to sleep. Smart boy.
Can you name your children?
Well, let's see. It was Bill, John, Val, Betty, and Nancy.
What single word best describes your life?
Interesting, I guess. It was to me.
One of the sayings she always had was, she was like a duck that she let the water run off of her back. Nothing, don't let anything bother you, right?
Right.
And always laugh at any situation, whether it's bad or good.
Yeah. Well, most of it was good, really.
And you worked hard, right? That's
Right.
how you made it to be 100.
Sure did. I really did.